Hey, welcome to DZ's Daily Devotions. Today's a special episode. We got a lot going on with the holidays, but we're going to get it done anyway. And today, we're on day 31. Glad to have you with me. We're starting off in Exodus. We're going to be reading chapter 12, verse 14 to chapter 13, verse 16. If you want to follow along with me. This is the day to remember each year. From generation to generation, you must celebrate it as a special festival to the Lord. This is a law for all time. For 7 days, the bread you must eat without yeast. On the first day of the festival, remove any yeast from the trays of your homes. Anyone who eats bread with yeast during the 7 days of the festival we cut off from the community of Israel. On the first day of the festival, again on the seventh day, all the people must observe an official day of holy assembly. No work of any kind may be done on these days except preparation for food. Celebrate this festival unleavened bread, for it will remind you that I brought you forces out of the land of Egypt on this very day. This festival will be permanent law for you to celebrate this day from generation to generation. The bread you eat must be made with yeast from the evening of the 10th day of the first month until the evening of the 21st day of that month. During those 7 days, there must be no trace of yeast in your homes. Anyone who eats anything made of yeast during this week will be cut off from the community of Israel. These regulations apply both to the foreigners living among you and to the native-born Israelites. During those days, you must not eat anything made with yeast. Wherever you live, only bread may be made out of yeast. Then Moses called out to the elders of Israel today and said to them, "Go and pick up a lamb or a young goat of each of your families and slaughter the Passover animal. Drain the blood into a basin, then take the bundle of hyssop branches and dip it into the blood. Brush the hyssop across the top and the sides of the door frames to your houses. And one may go through the door until the morning. For the Lord will pass through the land and strike down the Egyptians. When he sees the blood on top of the sides of the door frame, the Lord will pass over your home. He will not permit his death angel to enter your home or strike down your house." Remember, these instructions are permanent law that you and your descendants must observe forever. When you enter the land the Lord has promised you, you will continue to observe this ceremony. Then your children will ask, "What does this ceremony mean?" And you will reply, "It is the Passover sacrifice to the Lord, for he passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt. And though he struck the Egyptians, he spared our families." When Moses had finished speaking, all those people bowed down to the ground and worshipped. So the people of Israel did just as the Lord commanded through Moses and Aaron. And that night at midnight, the Lord struck down all the firstborn sons in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn son of Pharaoh, who sat on the throne, to the firstborn son of the prisoner in the dungeon. Even the firstborn of their livestock were killed. Pharaoh and all his officials and all people in Egypt woke up during the night, and a loud wailing was heard throughout the land of Egypt. There was not a single house where someone had not died. Israel's exodus from Egypt. Pharaoh sent Moses and Aaron during that night. "Get out," he ordered. "Leave my people and take the rest of the Israelites with you. Go and worship the Lord as you requested. Take your flocks and herds as you said, and be gone. Go, but bless me as you leave." All the Egyptians urged the people of Israel to get out of the land as quickly as possible, for they thought they will all die. The Israelites took their bread dough, yeast that was added. They wrapped their kneading boards in their cloaks and carried them on their shoulders. And the people of Israel did as Moses had instructions. They asked the Egyptians for clothing and articles of silver and gold. The Lord caused the Egyptians to look favorably on the Israelites, and they gave the Israelites whatever they asked for. So they stripped the Egyptians of their wealth. That night the people of Israel left Ramses and started for Succoth. They were about 600,000 men, plus all the women and children. A rabble of non-Israelites went with them, along with great flocks and herds of livestock. For the bread was baked flat cakes from dough with yeast they had made and brought from Egypt. It was made without yeast because the people were driven out of Egypt in such a hurry they had no time to prepare bread or other food. The people of Israel had left Egypt for 430 years. In fact, it was on the last day of the 430th year all the Lord's forces left the land. On this night the Lord kept his promise to bring the people out of the land of Egypt. So this night belongs to him, and it must be commemorated every year by the Israelites from generation to generation. Instructions for Passover. Then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "These are the instructions for the festival of Passover. No outsiders are allowed to eat the Passover meal, but any slave who has been purchased may eat it if he has been circumcised. Temporary residents have hired servants may not to eat. Each Passover lamb must be eaten in one house. Do not carry any of the meat outside. Do not break any of its bones. The whole community of Israel must celebrate this Passover festival. If there are foreigners living among you who want to celebrate the Lord's Passover, let all their males be circumcised, and only may celebrate Passover with you like any native-born Israelite. But no circumcised male may ever eat a Passover meal. This instruction applies to everyone, whether a native-born Israelite or a foreigner living among you." So all the people of Israel followed the Lord's commandments to Moses and Aaron. On that day, the Lord brought the people of Israel out of the land of Egypt like an army. So now we're in chapter 13. We're going to be reading until verse 16. Dedication of the firstborn. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Dedicate me and every firstborn among the Israelites. The first offspring to be born of both humans and animals belong to me." So Moses said to the people, "This day is to remember forever. The day you left Egypt, the place of your slavery, today the Lord has brought you out by the power of his mighty hand. On this day in the early spring, in the month of Abib, you must be set free. You must celebrate this event in the month of each year after the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Hivites, and Jebusites. For 7 days the bread you must eat must be made without yeast. Then on the seventh day celebrate the feast to the Lord. Each bread without yeast during those 7 days. In fact, there must be no yeast or any yeast found within the borders of your land during this time. On the seventh day you must explain to your children, I am celebrating what the Lord did for me when I left Egypt. This is a festival and a visible sign to you, like a mark branded on your hand or your forehead. Let it remind you always to recite this teaching of the Lord. With the Lord's hand, the Lord rescued you from Egypt. So observe the degree of this festival at the appointed time each year. This is what you must do when the Lord fulfills the promise he swore to you and your ancestors. When he gives you the land where the Canaanites now live, you must present all firstborn sons and firstborn male animals to the Lord, for they belong to him. A firstborn donkey may be brought back to the Lord by presenting a lamb or a young goat in its place. But if you do not buy it back, you must break its neck. However, you must buy back every firstborn son. And in the future, your children will ask you, what does this all mean? Then you will tell them, with the power of his almighty hand, the Lord has brought us out of Egypt, the place of our slavery. Pharaoh stubbornly refused to let us go, so the Lord killed all the firstborn males throughout the land of Egypt, both people and animals. This is why I know to sacrifice all firstborn males to the Lord, except the firstborn sons are always brought back. The ceremony will be like a mark branded on your hand or your forehead. It is a reminder that the power of Egypt, the reminder of the Lord's mighty hand brought us out of Egypt. So we're going to be picking up in verse 17 tomorrow, but now we're going to head over to Matthew. We're going to be in Matthew chapter 20, verse 19. No, chapter 20, verse 29, and we're going to be reading until chapter 21, verse 22. Parable of the vineyard workers. Jesus heals 2 blind men. As Jesus and his disciples left the town of Jericho, a large crowd formed around behind him. 2 blind men were sitting beside the road. When they heard that Jesus was coming that way, they began shouting, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us." "Be quiet," the crowd yelled to him. But they only shouted louder, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us." When Jesus heard them, he stopped and called, "What do you want me to do for you?" "Lord," they said, "we want to see." Jesus felt sorry for them and touched their eyes instantly so they could see. They followed him. Chapter 21. So we're going to be reading until verse 22. Jesus' triumphant entry. As Jesus' disciples approached Jerusalem, they came to the town of Bethphage on the Mount of Olives. Jesus sent 2 of them ahead. Go on to the village over there, he said. As soon as you enter it, you will see a donkey tied there, with its cloak beside it. Untie him and bring him to me. If anyone asks what you're doing, just say the Lord needs them. He will immediately let you take them. This took place to fulfill the prophecy that said, Tell the people of Jerusalem, look, your king is coming. He is humble, riding on a donkey's colt. The 2 disciples did as Jesus commanded. They brought the donkey over the colt to him and threw their garments over the colt, and he sat. Most of the crowd spread their garments on the road ahead of him, and the others cut the branches from the trees and spread them on the road. Jesus was in the center of the procession, and the people all around him were shouting, Praise God for the Son of David. Blessings on the one who comes in the name of the Lord. Praise God in his highest heaven. The entry of Jerusalem was an uproar as he entered. Who is this, they asked, and the crowds replied, It's Jesus, prophet, Nazareth, in Galilee. Jesus clears the temple. Jesus entered the temple and began to drive out all the people buying and selling animals for sacrifice. He knocked over the tables and the money changers and the chairs of those selling doves. He said to them, The scriptures declare, My temple will be called the house of prayer. You must turn it into a den of thieves. The blind and the lame came to him in the temple. And he healed them. The leading priests and the teachers of religious law saw these wonderful miracles, and he heard even the children in the temple shouting, Praise God on the Son of David. But the leaders were indignant. They asked Jesus, Do you want to hear these children saying? Yes, Jesus replied. Haven't you ever read the scriptures? For they say, Have you taught the children and infants to give birth and praise? They have returned to Bethany, where he stayed overnight. Jesus curses the fig tree. In the morning, as Jesus was returning to Jerusalem, he was hungry. He noticed a fig tree beside the road. He went over to see if there were any figs, but there were only leaves. And then he said to it, You may never bear fruit again. And immediately the fig tree withered up. The disciples were amazed when they saw this and asked, How did the fig tree wither so quickly? Then Jesus told them, I tell you the truth. If you have faith and don't doubt, you can do things like this and much more. You can even say to this mountain, May you lift up and be thrown to the sea, and it will happen. You may pray for anything, and if you have faith, you will receive it. So we're going to be picking up in verse 23 tomorrow. Let's go ahead and finish up Psalm 25, verse 16 to 22. Turn to me and have mercy, for I am alone and in deep distress. My problems go from bad to worse. Oh, save me from them all. Feel my pain and see my trouble. Forgive all my sins. See how many enemies I have and how viciously they hate me. Protect me. Rescue my life from them. Don't let them be disgraced, for in you I take refuge. May integrity and honesty protect me, but for hope in you, O God, ransom Israel from all its troubles. So we'll probably pick up in Psalm 26 tomorrow. Let's go ahead and finish up with our Proverbs. We're going to be reading Proverbs chapter 6, verse 12 to 15. What are the worthless and wicked people like? They are constant liars, signaling their deceit with a wink of the eye and a nudge of the foot or wiggle a finger. Their perverted hearts plot evil, and they constantly stir up trouble. But they will be destroyed suddenly, broken in an instant, beyond all hope and healing. Whew. So thank you for joining with me on day 31 of DZ's Daily Devotions. Thanks for bearing with me on this car ride. I'm so grateful to have you guys with me. It's been awesome. We're turning into the DZ Army, and I appreciate that. We are strong, and we can do all things through the Lord. Thank you for supporting at www.patreon.com/YoungNemo. And before you leave, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel and hit that bell button. And I'll catch you on the next episode.